Okay, welcome back. So as you see now, I have my different photos placed, and I tried to choose a good variety of different types of photos so I wasn't repeating the same story throughout. Make sure you always do that, and always make sure as well that the photos are a good reflection of our student body, so you don't just have one type of student or one grade or one gender on the page. And also make sure that that your photos have lots of different things going on in them and different people. You never want a single person repeated in any photo on the page unless it's completely unavoidable. One thing I just noticed after I place these photos is that I do have this hand here caught in the gutter, and that's kind of the interesting part of the photo. So one thing I'm going to try to do is just move this photo over a little bit so that that hand isn't in the gutter. So one thing I can do is I can use my white arrow here, click on this. I can actually just move it over in the same frame without having to move my photo. And then I can drag this photo out a little bit further, and now I've still got a pretty good margin, and she's still on a nice third, which makes the photo more interesting. Okay, now that I've fixed those little things, I need to add my copy package. So normally you would place the story at this point. And to place the story, it's the same as placing a photo. You would just find the story on the Google Doc and you copy and paste it in. But we don't have a story yet for this, so we're going to fill it with placeholder text. This is a good strategy to learn when you're a layout editor and you're waiting for a story to come in. You can just fill in with placeholder text until your story gets there. So we're going to go over here to our toolbar, and you're going to click on the type tool here, which is a T. And we're going to create a text box. I want to put my main story package here because that's my biggest open space. So I'm just going to create a text box of around the size I want it to be right here. And it'll have the cursor there. I can then change my font. And to figure out what font I want to use, if you go over here, Michaela created this, this nice guide for you so that you know what size and what font to use. So if you look where it says copy, it says AHJ function regular 9. So I want to go up here and I want to select AHJ function as my font. I could scroll down and find it, but an easier way is just to type in AHJ and then the first couple letters of function, and it'll come up. You hit enter and it selects that font. Make sure regular is selected here instead of one of these other options. And then here you go to 9. Once your font is selected, you then go to type and fill with placeholder text, and it'll fill that whole text box with just random Latin words so that it looks like there's text there and you can place the story later. Most of the time in Yearbook we have our story in 2 columns. So how to put that into 2 columns is you go up here to your bar here where it says 1, you change this to 2, and then you can change the gutter of the text, that's what the space in between here, and change that to 0 P5 by just clicking on those arrows. Now you've got a nice 2-column text set. Make sure that you're not going over that purple line because otherwise the text might get cut off. So now that I've got my body copy in there, I need a headline. We're going to have 2 headline fonts that we can work with this year. This isn't the final decision one. We need to download that font, but we're going to practice with this one today. So that's AHJ function and HJ Alberton. So you can create another text box here and make up a title. So I'm just going to call this story Prom is Great. Obviously not what we would actually call our story. And to make our headline fit really nice, well, first I want to put it in the correct font. So I'm going to try HJ function. I can play around with different types of function here if I want to make it bold. And I'm going to make it really big for now so I can see. Okay. So I could leave it like that, but it's a little bit boring. Instead, let's play around with making it 2 different fonts. So one cool trick to make headlines look good is to put different parts of the headline in different text boxes. So I'm still on my T tool here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to highlight this is great, and I'm going to copy it, which it can either do by right clicking and hitting copy, or the shortcut on the keyboard is Control C. I can then go over here and make a new text box and either right click and hit paste or hit Control V, that'll paste it, and then I'm going to delete it from this original text box. Now I'm going to change this to our other font, HJ Alberton, which I'm doing up there. And now I've got this cool script here. Now I want to play around a little bit with size. So I'm going to click on this text box. You'll see my text box is really big. If I go into the corner here, I can double click and that'll shrink it. And then just like how I made a picture a little bit bigger and smaller, if you hold Control and Shift, you can make your text bigger and smaller by just dragging it from the corner, which is really nice because then you can get it to fit exactly where you want it to do. Just like with a photo, don't just hold Control because that will stretch out your text really weird. Make sure you're holding Control and Shift. Then I can bring it over here and I can make it fit into my space a little bit better. Okay, and then now with this word prom, I'm going to do some things with that. So I'll do the same thing. I'll double click. I'll drag it out there. And then I want to make it kind of fit in this empty space I have here. So I'm going to drag it a little bit bigger, put it here. Now it's a little too big because it's going above my pink line. You cannot have text of any sort go outside the lines. It's okay that this little T is, but really you shouldn't have any text there. And there you go. If you want to add a secondary headline, because you're going to have to do that on your actual layout, so you could just create another text box. If you look over here, you see that secondary headlines go in AHJ function regular, size 10 or higher. So we're going to choose AHJ function, and we're going to go to regular, and we'll do size 12 for now, and I'll just type in secondary headline as my placeholder text. And we'll place that there. Now that I see that I've got more space, I can bump up the size of my secondary headline a little bit bigger so that you can read it. And then I'll bump up my text by I've got my black arrow selected, I can just move it, or I'm using the arrows on my keyboard, and you can move it just by 1 pica each time, or you can use Shift and it'll move it by 10 picas, or 0.1 picas every time. Okay. And now I've got my text placed. On this same lesson, you can do the same thing with captions. So you need to have captions for each of these photos. So again, make text boxes next to your photos. And caption size is the same thing except size 8. So AHJ function and regular, and then make it size 8. And then if you go to type, fill with placeholder text. That'll get your caption. And you want to place your captions next to each photo so that each photo has a caption. And you can just copy and paste each text box and then make it the right size. So I just clicked on this, I did Control C, Control V, and now I've got a new text box that I can just place next to it. Same thing, Control C, Control V. I'm going to put one down here next to this, and I'm going to change it to the right size. This arrow is telling me there's more text in my box than I have space for. That's okay, I can just delete some of the text because these are just fake captions anyway. Make sure that you've got a caption is probably going to end up being at least 4 lines long, so make sure it's at least 4 lines long so that it's realistic. Drag that over so it fits the photo. And we're going to put a photo or a caption on top of this photo as well. So I'm going to go over here, get this rectangle tool, draw a small rectangle, go over here to my swatches. This is where I select color, and I'm going to select white, which is paper, and move it onto my photo. I'm going to find some dead space in my photo where nothing's really happening. So right here is good. I'm going to change the transparency of this box if you go up here to this, and we're going to make it 70% so you can kind of see through it a little bit still. But I can read text that goes on top of it. And same thing, I'm going to copy and paste that caption, go here, and now I will fill it up with more placeholder text so it fits that whole space. And now I've got a caption on every photo.